He's all humming. Greetings and welcome back. This is a Mona 2 times in one day. Let me see. I pray everybody's doing well. Hold on, let me make sure this thing doesn't fall. We improve. Greetings and look at the yummy looking all cute in the background. See you later, yummy. Greetings and welcome back once again, 2 times in one day. That's how it happens. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I forgot something. Shiloh. You know what we forgot? Forgot to take out the garbage. We are the janitorial center. Hold on, this is like, hopefully the babies will behave and don't try to get into the camera while I run inside. You people better not move. Is there a way? Now I need for the thing to pause. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on. One momento. Uh-oh. What's going on here? Yeah. I'll be right back, you guys. Maybe you guys can drive with me. Ah, this is real life, y'all. Sometimes I'll be turning around, I'll leave, turn around, come back, leave, turn around. Like, did I remember? Hey, the life of an entrepreneur. Woohoo! So you guys can drive this way. Look, you guys can drive without it falling. All right. That should be it. I think I remember. That's why when y'all see me forgetting stuff, that stuff be real. I'll be like, what was I talking about again? So much stuff on the mind. Anywho, I was reminded today of a poem that I had written some time ago. And I named it Idolatry. But in a way, I spelled it here. Right? Speaking of the sin of idolatry and why that is something that is being used for us, especially in modern America, and why it's something that's being used to trip the people up and to captivate the minds of the people. So, and we spoke about yesterday, day before yesterday, we spoke about our senses and the fact that our senses are receptive. It's things that we receive through our eyes, our ears, all of our senses, our nose, our mouth. And so when we are intrigued through these senses, specifically our eyes, when it comes on to idolatry, that's used to control us. So these, like celebrities, modern day, because we have the modern day. In antiquity, maybe they would have been statues made of them, and they would have been carved out on the side of mountains and in temples and in all of these places, and they commission great artists to make all of these replicas. You have in ancient Egypt, you have all of these huge figures, and these are the idols that are carved in the people's mind. But in the same way, today, idols are carved in the people's mind, but our technology is the only thing that is different. Our technology differs in such a way that it's more. The ability. Me just want to move from the side of that truck, y'all. Hold on, people. I'll be talking to y'all, but this Dollar Tree truck right here, it is more than it happens at a faster rate. Before, you may take months to carve something out, but now you can just take a picture, you can upload it on the computer, you can video, you can make a film, you can make music, right? So the fact that can be created, and they can infiltrate the minds of the people more. This is why the idols have multiplied. You have some places where they be like, oh, they had so many idols. They had an idol for every day of the week. They had an idol for everything that they wanted to personify in the earth. Now we have celebrities, A-list, B-list, C-list, D-list, and it depends on how far elevated you are, because that's what the idols are. Elevated you are in the minds of the people, and how much people ascribe to that thing or that person value, that determines, welcome to Florida, yeah, that determines the power of that idol. So for instance, I'm just drawing the parallels, right? To say that they're still in the earth. So they may even say this is a quote Christian country, or it may be whatever, but not really, because there are so many idols that are formed. They actually call them idols. They actually call them celebrities, which means to celebrate someone. And usually in today's space and time, people are celebrated for all manner of things. It doesn't mean that they're heroic. It doesn't mean that they did something right in the community. Right now, somebody's being celebrated for, depravity. They're just being celebrated for how many people they can offend, or being celebrated for how many lives they have taken, how many people they have prostituted. This is what is celebrity in today's space and time. Henceforth, these are what these deities, when people go to them, when people call on their names, it is to say that they are channeling the energy of Beyonce, right? What does that mean? What does that look like? And it comes through the eyes. Now, the idol watchers are we, the people who give our attention to these entities. Like, for instance, on this particular YouTube, a large segment of the melanated people, not all, but a good amount, have put their time and attention towards gossip, right? Because it sells. You know what I'm saying? I've heard one of the biggest gossip bloggers say that before, when they were talking about health or when they were talking about wellness, they didn't get, and they didn't. This is when people started to value what they had to say. Even it is with, that's why sometimes I come, sometimes I have something to say, sometimes I don't, sometimes I'm busy. But even with this YouTube, in this monetization space now, because time is energy, right? And energy is currency. So that's why some people say time is money. So if people just on the strength of, oh, I just want to share, come to sharing their time, and they're not getting anything in return, they think that's a bad investment. And so even YouTube in 2020, which has changed drastically, YouTube does not value certain messages, certain keywords. So therefore they will not put you before so-called advertisers. So this kind of typecasts the people who are delivering information, who would want to speak on certain less popular topics, and they oftentimes opt not to. Like me personally, you know what I mean? Wording your stuff so that it doesn't, if you want your information to get to who it gets to, the reward will come. But that's basically the world that we're living in. So, this whole idolatry thing, it hasn't gone anywhere. We don't have to go so far back to read about it to know that it exists. It exists in this space and time. It's just more fluid. It's just more fluid. And then they give idols. So to be the highest esteemed idol, then you have to possess a Grammy, or you have to possess an Oscar, or you have to possess this thing that a group of people have created, and then imbued it with the power to say that. I mean, the stuff is deep. It's crazy to say it represents the pinnacle of success. It represents whatever they say it represents. So we see basically, in the same way the Bible is saying that people make these idols. They go into the forest, they cut down a tree, and half they make it to the idol, the half they put it in the what do you call it? They put it in the fire to cook their food, right? In the book of Jeremiah, he speaks about this. So we the people, are the ones who have the power to say, when we use it collectively, sorry, we don't value what we're saying, right? But then someone else who we or we feel is on a higher level, that's what they say, oh, you're not on my level. What idols are at different levels, right? Somebody else who's on a higher level would be like, oh yeah, that was so deep. And even go so far as to not question the validity of what they just said. If we ever find ourselves where we don't use our thinking to cognitively reason for ourselves and to check to make sure what we're being given is right and exact, yeah, we're on the slope, that slippery slope for the okie doke. You know what I mean? At which point we are partial in judgment and we are just inclined towards a person because we emotionally like that person. And that's a very dangerous space to be in. And I'm just sharing as I'm driving. Because we emotionally connect with someone doesn't mean that everything, it doesn't matter who it is, everything that person says is right and exact. And if we check our brain in at the door, then we give up our power essentially. And that is the hope of the music industry. That's the hope of the entertainment industry. That's the hope of all of them, is to give up this power, to listen to what we're telling you to do so that we can program your mind and then we can get the result out of you that we're looking for. What's happening now, and I'm seeing, I didn't know who the person was. And I like to learn lessons. So I'm at work and I'm listening, I'm doing what I'm doing. And this woman keeps coming up, the Jaguar Wright situation, where she is bursting a lot of people's bubbles with how they view these idols. She said something that I found interesting, is that the idol makers always want to present as though the Spingalis, the people who are behind the scenes, the image casters, the PR people, wanted to make it to seem as though a person who they're now positioning to become an idol is perfect, you know. So, but now in today's space and time, a lot of those tips and tricks are for the common people have it now. Before, when the common people didn't have access to this, it was a little bit easier to fool them. But now the common people have filters, common people have Photoshop, you know what I mean? The common people have access to Instagram and YouTube, where at one time, in order to be on a big screen, or you had to go through their channels, and that to a certain degree is causing them to lose their stronghold. And this is why you see a lot of major media coming to places where the everyday person used to be, because they saw that the everyday person collectively can harness attention and power. And now you come on places like YouTube. I came on YouTube like 2009. YouTube was the everyday person. And now you have Fox and ABC and CNN and Oprah. What are you doing on YouTube? Don't you have your whole own platform? Don't you have your own platform? You have Harpo Studios, but yet here you are on YouTube trying to push out the small man's narrative, because the reality is the people that are creating or trying to create our reality only wants us to look through their lens. And so this woman who is whether I wasn't there, you know what I'm saying, who is coming and sharing her experience, is causing a lot of waves, just based on what I'm perceiving as the way she's delivering her information, and B, the fact that she's breaking a lot of the people's perceptions who held these people as idols, you know. And you do so by, oh, I always looked up to you, you're my idol. Like, growing, that was just a word that we weren't allowed to use, that somebody's your idol, right? That right there says, these shall make no idols. An image, that's why they say, oh, I can't do it, it's not right for my image. It's something that you create, or that's created for the artist. It's not really even them. This will have the people to like you more. So if we look at it, it's the people that they're looking to get this energy from. And so they craft the thing and then sell it back to the people. It's a wild feedback loop if we really look at it. It is a wild feedback loop. And what happens is they have led the people further and further down the rabbit hole, right? And then people are like, what happened? What you allowed in, the channels that you allowed these mediums to communicate with the generations through has destroyed them. So when you thought it was harmless and you thought it was nothing, and our parents didn't, they were too busy and all of this stuff was happening, didn't realize that that was the reference. How many people on here have heard songs, and the songs is what has instructed you on what to do in a situation? Remember back in the day when I think it was a European dude who either attempted murder somebody or something happened in that realm, and then he blamed the fact that he was listening to a Tupac record for what he did. Anybody remember that? It was a long time ago, because Tupac is a long time ago, but Tupac was still alive at this time, and the young man was trying to blame what the music, like gangster rap, the music, art imitated life and life imitated art. And so when they wanted to bring in certain culture, they started to put it in the music, they started to put it in the film. It was in the early 90s we started getting films like New Jack City, that wasn't early 90s. Baby Boy is not early 90s. New Jack City. What's the next one with Tate? All of these like gangster rappy type movies. Boys in the Hood. You know what I mean? Movies such as this, where they're trying to convey a certain message. So let us never underestimate the power and allow themselves to these idols, right? A sister wrote that, even though I wrote Tree, that was my poem, but idols, these dolls, which is something that we create, right? Inanimate object, a Pinocchio or whatever, and you see it, you perceive it with your eye, and you imbue it with all of these qualities that you like or dislike or whatever, and then it becomes what you make it. And that's the downfall of any people. If you follow Torah and if you subscribe to what Torah says make no graven images. Do not create anything in the heaven above, the earth beneath, or the waters under the earth. And then it say, do not bow down to them nor worship them. Right? When you look at the way people would fall out for superstars, for Michael Jackson, for Whitney Houston, for all of these, for the talent and ability that they have been made into these idols in which people will, give their very life force for. And you have to say, well, what in all of spiritual wickedness is going on here? And what in all of, spiritual wickedness is happening here? The people have been bewitched. I know you have heard that Hollywood is the wood that traditionally people from certain places in Eastern Europe would use to do their dark sciences. The actual wood of the holly tree. And that things that people are investing so much time and energy in, and people are investing so much time and energy in, cannot save them. It doesn't profit. It's something to talk about in time and passing, but at the end of the day, when people try to, I've been seeing Popo everywhere. I've been seeing them coming. I've been seeing them going. I'm pulled up behind one. Hey, where today? What's going on? Hey, what's going on? I gotta talk like I'm in Florida. What's going on, y'all? It's been a long day. What's going on? Yeah, so basically, yes. How do people get trapped in this? Do you know somebody who's stuck in idolatry, but they just call it guilty pleasures, and they follow their favorite celebrities who now are more accessible than ever on social media, and they don't miss an opportunity to learn everything about their life? That person, they could be whomever, they could be Christian, they could be Muslim, they could be Hebrew. If that person is moving in that manner, they might be caught up into some idolatry. There's the spirit that takes people over. At first you may not even realize it. And many of these people, let me say, are possessed by spirits. Because let's check it out. According to what the woman is saying, and we already heard this many, many, many times. What's going on here? That in order to be in some of these spaces in the entertainment industry, one has to be vulnerable and willing to be exploited in some capacity, willing to be easily malleable so that they can form you into this idol. You understand? And so a lot of these people in these spaces have been injured and are seeking acceptance and seeking validation, and they're perfect. So you have a gift and you're broken. Like if you watch the documentary on Marilyn Monroe, or you watch the documentary on Shirley Temple. I had watched that a while ago. I was like, this is crazy. And you watch the documentary on just a lot of these people in this space, the people that they made into stars. When you look at the Marilyn Monroe, they have it on YouTube. I don't know why, but down the rabbit hole we go. Her makeup beauty routine. You're like, what in all of creation is going on here? Right? So the person you see is not even real. So when you see real people now, you can't imagine that they're real, because the person that you have idolized is no longer real. And as long as we continue to put our attention and keep our attention in these spaces, then they got us. And this is why entertainers get paid way more than the teacher. You know what I mean? That's teaching the children 1 + 1 2 + 2. They get paid way more than people who go to school for 5, 6, 7, 8 years to become doctors or to become lawyers or to do the things that serve communities and society. It's the same thing that happened, Mr. It's the same thing that happened in ancient Rome. You still had the amphitheaters, and you still had the actors, you still had all of these people that entertained. He's busting all of these stuff here. Let me know y'all thoughts. I know y'all be coming on after and all, and I know sometimes this morning you was talking about reincarnation. I think it's in line with the whole actor conversation and the way in which we're looking at these things and what people are willing to do. There's one actor, what's his name? He did an interview, Leonardo DiCaprio, and he spoke about the mental issues that followed his successes, as many would say. A lot of these people suffer with depression. Like, what's the guy name? The comedian that died. The one who played Doubtfire. Suffer with depression. Jim Carrey. All of these people have other issues, because what happens is a lot of these actors, the quote really good ones, empty themselves out. So check it out. The idol hollows itself out, empties itself out. That person, that soul, gives permission to move themselves and their real life experience to the side, to open up their vessel, to be a mouthpiece for these characters that they're acting out. And these characters leave behind traces of themselves. So like we were talking about reincarnation this morning, it would be like every time they take on a role of a character, they don't come back at another lifetime. They leave pieces of them in present day. So they'll have these different voices and these different thoughts all within them. If you ever watch one of them in an interview, and the person might ask them, you know, what's your earliest play, or when was your first acting gig, da 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 da, and then they will go on to ask, because I'm used to hosting and interviewing and stuff, so I listen intently. They will go on to ask, well, do you remember a line from your first? And like that, many of them could pull back the line. If it was Shakespeare, if it was whatever that play was, many of them could pull back that line. That means that part of that experience fused with their soul, right? And it's now become a part of them, because they say that we don't know the difference between virtual reality and reality. If you see, like, that's why some of these violent video games make people violent in real life, because your brain is perceiving what's happening as though it's real, because it is on some level. So virtual reality and reality, this is why scary movies for some can put them in a panic. can have them scared. Can, you know what I'm saying? So these actors that are allowing themselves to be these vessels for and idols cannot, that soul, that the real person can't oftentimes handle it. So they turn to drugs, and they turn to alcohol, and they turn to illicit behavior. They turn to all of these things to try to cope with the reality. And here we are, we the people, over here like, ooh, look at that shiny rock over there in the corner. Oh, because we think, oh, their life is, they're on MTV Raps. That's back in the day, right? Yo, MTV Cribs, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Who remembers all that stuff? Why were they dangling this carrot in front of our faces? Lifestyles of the, why they are falling. We have artists who can't book shows, is over here on YouTube and Instagram tap dancing for $2, because although they may have been given a bigger salary, they still, their day-to-day expenses essentially match our day-to-day expenses. So they miss 2 paychecks the same way the everyday person missed 2 paychecks. It's a wrap. But here we the people are, we're seeing it in real life. When I saw one of these verses, and I'm like, wow, homegirl is pressing hard, you know what I mean, for a tour. Like, yo, I need this money now. I'm like, whoa, shorty's pressing kind of hard here. What's going on? A lot of them, right, because a lot of them don't own their publishing. We see that what's going on with Kanye. But yet we don't learn. This is the part what I don't understand. Or maybe in this day and age we are learning. But how many people, Sam Cooke had the same problem. Marvin Gaye had the same problem. Michael Jackson, Prince, all of these people have the same problem. Yet here we are in 2020 with people still falling into the same trap. Like it's not going to happen to me. That's the ego. Once again, how is it not going to happen to you? And you just sat here and watched 100 people before you fall in the same hole. Where you get to produce because you're the idol. So essentially you shouldn't own anything. You just get recognition for being the idol, but you're not the power behind the idol. So how do you get to produce and not own your publishing, not own the rights to your thing? And their response is they made you an idol. They the one who gave you the platform. They the one who gave you the stage for everyone to see you. Therefore, they should own you. So we have Kanye pricing all of his contracts. But guess what? Remember we talked about when we really want something, how we sometimes overlook the red flags and the reality of what's there. I talked about that the other day in relationships. We do it in business. You really want this deal, even though once the initial joy of whatever you're trying to get passes and you have to sit with the choices that you make, people still make the choices anyway and then cry at the end and say, you know what, this is unjust, this is unfair. And so this goes on to our desires. There was something in the desire of the person. I don't want to live in the ghetto. I don't want to be in the hood. Whatever it is the person, the I wants, the idolatry, right? Whatever that I wants, the I reasons that, hey, if this is what I have to do, this is what I have to do. Until it's time to pay. I was trying to give the example to the children one day, and then I remembered this part in Shrek. I forgot which one of the Shreks. I don't remember. You already know. But it's when he was wishing that for one day he would be left alone. Something he was wishing. And so this dude shows up. I don't remember how or why the dude showed up. The dude shows up and he's like, yo, I could give you everything you want. Just sign the paper. Why did they want you to sign the paper? What is in the paper? What's in the pen? These are all of the spiritual laws that are operating. People are like, Amuna, this is really religious. I'm like, oh, really? Is there a reason why they want you to sign a paper to when you're going into an agreement? What spiritually is happening when you take your hand to a pen and sign your name on a dotted line? There's something that's happening spiritually that we need to examine. There's something that happens spiritually when you exchange words and when you exchange energy and when you, that puts us in a level of debt spiritually to whatever it is we're committing ourselves to, right? So These people, like the people who become idols, there's a level of them that was willing at one point, before they saw how dirty the underbelly was, that they wanted to become this idol. They had to have had the image cast into their minds. Otherwise, else they wouldn't have gone for it. Right? There had to be something attractive, because we learned about desire and how desire works. Desire pulls us close to something. Kamad is the word in Hebrew, right? We see it in the wilderness, not in the wilderness, in the garden. It says that Eve desired the fruit to make her wise, or to make her intellectual, and so she drew nigh onto it. She went closer to it. So oftentimes, what we desire, if we really desire it, we're pulled towards it. But if that thing that we desire is of no, it's not going to benefit us, it may feel at first to be an accomplishment. And we see a lot of these entertainers like, yeah, I was invited to the radio, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, I was on the Jimmy Kimmel, Fennel, whoever show, and, you know, this person knows my name, and I was at this house and that house. But then you have some of them who went close enough to be like, nah, I'm good. I'm not trying to go over there. I'm not trying to pay that price. There was a reggae song that talks about, what does it profit a man to sell his soul, to gain the world and sell his soul, right? And it's been said so many times, what does it profit you to gain the world, all of these physical things? You see it also in the New Testament, you know, throw down yourself and worship, and I'll give you everything you see. But at what price? So when these idols fall down like Humpty Dumpty off the wall, is when they're no longer hot. For instance, they brought up Tevin Campbell. And by the way, I had wrote about Tevin Campbell in my little novel that I had to do a little re-editing, so y'all stick with me. The very first time, because if you young in the 90s, come on, can we talk for a minute? You know what I mean? I was like, oh heck, nah, they brought up Tevin, but even Tevin is not beyond the scope of critique. So when the woman questioned this idols at one point, that's what they propped him up as. The people were like, why are you talking about him? But then he's less than perfect. But then again, it's like, well, they have cast him aside because you're not hot anymore. Isn't that what they say? You're not relevant anymore. You're not streaming anymore. This is the value that the idol has. In a lot of African spirituality, if you look at I don't got that much time no more, but I used to watch a lot of Nigerian movies. And what's weird in the Nigerian movies is that from village to village, they would have different idols for different villages. It wasn't just like universal deities for their village. So you might go to one village and they have their own set of deities. And they go to another village, they have their own set of deities. And then they actually retire deities. I'm like, what in the world? Like, oh yeah, they don't use that deity anymore because, that deity is not popping, they got a new one. And that's kind of how we see it in this space of Hollywood. And all different countries have it. They have Bollywood, they have Nollywood, they have Korean pop music. They have it in all the different cultures. This, quote, celebrities that they have made into idols to put in the eyesight of the people. So if the idol says bleach your skin, like what's happening a lot on the continent, South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, all of these places, the people are bleaching their skin like there's no tomorrow. What time is it? Right? So if the idol skin is bleaching, like people is asking what's going on with Serena Williams, what did she succumb to? Who is she looking at? What is the standard of beauty that she's looking at? That either something is going on, but the skin look a little bit lightish.